Hey guys, it's Otti again. I'm here in an online call with Fernando from the band MOONSPELL. Hi, first of all.
Hello, everybody. Wie
Hi.
geht's?
Gut. Und dir?
Alles klar.
Wonderful, great. So, but you are not German, you're Portuguese, but you know a little bit of some words in German? Is it like that?
Well, yeah. I have to say that I have a long history with Germany. We first signed to Central Media back in '96. My German is very limited, but I can get around with ordering food and getting a cab to Hauptbahnhof. So you get some stuff. Our keyboard player, he lived in Heidelberg, so he speaks perfect German. Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't come forward, you can ask him to order you some drinks or stuff.
Well, I can order the drinks and I can order the Thunfisch baguette mit Zwiebeln und Remoulade, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Great. For the people outside, I think most people kick in should know you. Moonspell is, I think you are like the co-inventors of the genre Gothic Metal. Would you say it like this? Probably, yeah.
Well, I would love to, but we've been in the forefront of the movement back in the '90s. But I think, to be honest, I think Paradise Lost deserves that claim because they did this amazing album in '93, I think, called Gothic. And I think it all started with them. And then in '95, we did Wolf Art and the Religious, and there was a lot of bands at that time that were fusing Gothic and metal. But I think if you go to the zero, like number one, not zero, number one Gothic metal album, I think that could be Paradise Lost Gothic. But if you go back into the past, I think Into the Pandemonium by Celtic Frost was already having some elements that fusion.
But since then, you have been like one of the big acts, like Crematory, for example, I would imagine, and you, and as you mentioned, Paradise Lost, some bands that really made this. Yeah.
Yeah, we toured with Crematory back in the day. They were a very big band, especially in the German territories. I have a problem with the big band thing. I think big bands are Judas Priest, Maiden, Metallica. I think Municipal is a struggling band. You know what I mean? It's more a band that every day has to keep fighting, has to keep, especially because we are from Portugal. The scene is very competitive. We never actually believed we could leave from music and have the kind of reaction we had, the kind of response we had. And I'm not being modest, I'm just talking about our reality. But yeah, I cannot deny that we have some legacy going on. We are right now entering our 34th anniversary as a band, but because of our origins and because of our roots and because of our country too, we never took anything for granted. It's all a big process and a big struggle, I would say, for us and for many bands. I think for Crematory too, for Paradise Lost too, even though they have an amazing album right now with Ascension, and they're all coming back strong. So I hope it happens the same with Moonspell, with Far From God.
Yeah, that's the album we are talking about now. Um, but you are saying struggling band, so would you say even nowadays it's harder to be a band and to tour and to get things done?
Oh yes, it's not as easy as people will think, because behind every result, behind every public achievement, there's a lot of work being done. I think the scene is nowadays more competitive. Nowadays it's harder because in the '90s people were better off. Nowadays there's a big crisis, even in countries that have been always like going great, like Germany, for instance. Nowadays I see that people have to choose and pick between going to this Moonspell show, to the Paradise Lost, or to the Crematory. That's why we play together so many times, so they can have everything for a ticket. But I think nowadays, yeah, you have to be smart. You have to have quality, and you have to manage your expectations a little bit too. I mean, Moonspell, we don't want to reach we want to reach more to the right people than a big number of people that will probably just ditch us when the other band comes around. So in our case, it's a little bit more of an underground approach. We want to keep our fans happy and faithful. That's very important for these niche markets or for these struggling bands, as I say.
Yeah, totally. And I think you have a strong and devoted fan base, but it's limited to those that really love the sound. somehow?
I think so. It has been like this. I mean, Moonspell has grown a lot since the 90s. I mean, we just started humbly with the Wolf Art, then we went on the road. Germany was actually the first country, Germany and Poland, to discover about Moonspell, but there's a lot of twists and turns. I think a career of the band is made of peaks and valleys because I remember touring on a van in '95. I had a long line of people asking for my autographs, not for my picture because there was no mobiles back then. But then I went to the back of the van and just slept with crammed with the other guys. So music for me, it's this. It's a mix between a certain kind of glory, but also a certain kind of hardship. So if you want to be a musician and if you want to be a touring musician, even though the conditions improved, you have always to be able to sacrifice something. But it's all good because just the thought that we can provoke in other people sensations that bands like my favorite bands like Battery, Celtic Frost, Type of Negative provoked onto me, it's something like it's priceless and it's worth every sacrifice.
Yeah, totally. Really. And talking about struggling, you have a new album coming. It's, I think, 1 month now from now on.
Yeah, it's July the 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah, Far From God
Far From
is
God, yeah.
the title. And we can talk about struggles. What have been the struggles you had to fight on the way from the first ideas to now to the finished record?
This album is very special because it comes in a time where Moonspell wasn't inspired to make a new album. Our last album, Hermitage, it's like 5-6 years ago. And personally, and particularly myself, I didn't feel we were ready to make a new album so soon. That's why we did a lot of touring in between. We did a symphonic live album with an orchestra that we recorded in Portugal. It was very successful too. But we were just like trying to buy ourselves time in order to be inspired. And also Moonspell has done a lot of different music. So we were in a bit on a crossroad if we want to go more extreme, more metal, more gothic. So we had to wait and see. So I think the struggle was really to wait and see. And it's a bit of a romantic perspective, but we were waiting to be inspired. Once we got the gist of it, and once we got the words and the music and the lyrics, I think the answer came in the shape of Far From God, which for me is one of the most important albums for myself personally, as far as Moonspell is related, because it kind of reenacted the enthusiasm I have to be the Moonspell singer, to have the interviews and everything. After 30 years, sometimes I started to get very tired about it. But now I think this album has rejuvenated me a little, and the band too. So I'm happy about it.
I would say this, for example, this album has helped you to go on and to say, okay, this band has to be alive and has to go on touring and stuff?
I think so. I mean, you need to be motivated all the time. Like I say, having a band is a dream come true, but it also has its ups and downs. And you have to be very strong-minded. And you interview a lot of bands, so sometimes they don't want to be in an interview or they don't want to be on tour. And as we are from Portugal, for us it's even a bigger privilege because there's not a lot of Portuguese bands. There are more now than there used to be in the '90s. But for us to do the same as a German band does, or an English band or a Swedish band, it's something that it will be considered pure fiction. Some days or some years ago, let's call it this way. So we kind of tap into it to get the right energy for the band. The love of the fans, the love of what we do, and especially enjoying the music that we do. That's really, really great. I wouldn't be in a band that has a formula that makes everything sounding the same, just changing the lyrics a little bit. I couldn't be like these bands. I couldn't be in the band where I was just business as usual and I'm not friends with my band and I just talk with them in the rehearsals. And no, for me, to be in a band is like to be in a club or in a marriage or in a family. And that has to do with a lot of Portuguese tradition too. And of course, it's a bit harder to be personal about your band, but I think it's the way it works for our music. So yeah, so we go through the motions. Yeah, sometimes we want to be there, sometimes we don't want to be there. I know musicians are trained to say everything is all right, and that life is great, and the new album is always the better, but or the best. But there's many nuances in being in a band, and they all reflect in our music and the way that we behave in life too.
Totally. But it's good that you're honest about that. Not everything is good and fine, because making some kind of gothic and metal music and mixing this, you can't be all the time happy and everything is fine, because you need some struggles, some deep points, and some things to write about to put into the music, I think. You have to have some dark moments in your life.
And you're right about it. I think it's not a necessary rule, but most albums I like and most bands I listen, those albums come from very melancholic moments where we are facing our own mortality, our own conflict. And I believe there's no Gothic music without understanding or without bringing up the concept of pain. Even if you talk about love, or even if you talk about vampires or werewolves or whatever darkness, the main themes of this kind of music, you really have to have experienced them. It's not something that you can talk as a second-hand experience, and that could be inside, it can be around, it could be zeitgeist, it could be the state of the world, it could be the state of yourself. But there's something very deeply personal about writing these kinds of music. I mean, if you are in a concept like writing about pirates or war, or like many bands are, or rubber ducking or whatever, I think that's legit for that kind of music, because it has a concept and you kind of writing into it. But when you do music that changes from album to album, that changes with you too, I think that the honest thing to do is to face the demons, definitely.
Yeah. And you don't have the time to dig totally deep into the album, because it's just a 20, 30 minute slot we have. But maybe can you tell me what in general has inspired you on the way to this album? Which have been the things that have found their way on the lyrics and into the music?
Well, musically, I would say it's an album that is very inspired by a certain type of music that Moonspell has already done, like in Irreligious, in Extinct, in Darkness and Hope. It has more this gothic color, and we still have rocking and metal moments and heavy riffing and screaming vocals that people will then discover when they listen to the whole album. But the main concept was definitely to approach ourselves from the Gothic metal we have done. Obviously, that Gothic metal has influences that are still a bit the same, and some others. I was very paying attention to the Gothic revival, not necessarily within the metal genre, but there was the French Police, Twin Tribes, Le Band, Son Imaginaire. These bands that have helped to keep this Gothic elegance. They're about a bit more danceable and electronic than Moonspell, but I really like them. And then the old bands, of course, like Sister of Mercy, Fields of Nephilim, Typo Negative. And there's two particular moments that I would like to talk about. It's like in 2024, a great band from Sweden called Tribulation, they released an album called Sub Rosa Eterno. And a friend of mine called me up and say, have you sung on this album? I said, no. I mean, I love Tribulation. We've toured with them and been around. And then I went to listen to the album because I was very curious. And it kind of had some, I would say, some Moonspell influences. And immediately I thought, well, if they did this, we can do it too, and I think that should be the direction too. So it was like a band that we influenced, that influenced us back in a way. And also about the themes, about getting back into writing about love and death. I really liked Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. I think it really captured the loneliness, the heartbreaking thing, the humanity of the vampire, which is a man like you and me, or a woman, and that's just minding his or her own business, and then a tragedy happens, and when tragedy happens, lyrics happen. So my lyrics are really about the distance from God, the distance from original feelings that human race should have, empathy, kindness, and we're totally on a violent stage of our history together, especially with religions, especially with monotheist religions like Islamic religion, Judaism, or Catholicism. They all became very violent and very against each other right now. And it's also a very philosophical album because I've studied philosophy, and I wanted to bring this more wondering, more questioning things about the true subjects of life, which for me are life itself, death, or the prospect of it, and love. And I think everything else that I write about falls into that category.
Okay. So what maybe is the biggest question on the album? What would you mention as like the core question you have put on this album?
Well, I think the core question is about how can we get back to the right path, really? Because Nietzsche was a German philosopher, as everybody knows, but he was a philologist. So he studied the archetypes, the Greek words, and then he brought them to his time and was watching the corruption of concepts like beauty meant something for the Greeks, which was more original, virtue too, and then it meant something to us. And now after, already some centuries after Nietzsche, I think the message is still important. We have deviated from what we are. We've become someone else as a human species, something worse than, for instance, even 10 or 20 years ago. So I think the questioning of far from God is how we get close to ourselves again.
Yeah. And how would you define God on this context? I think you are not religious as far as I know you, but I think it's like a symbol in this way. Is it like it?
Yeah, it's the biggest symbol of our society and our civilization. And I already had my irreligious, moments, even towards the occult. But when I started philosophy in the 90s, I rapidly put Crowley, LaVey, Eliphas Levi, Fischer on the shelf, and I replaced them with a lot of German philosophy like Nietzsche, Feuerbach, Kant, Hegel, and also French like Voltaire. And those people, those thinkers helped me to understand much more than just this metal rebellion against the church. So if you ask me if I'm religious or not, I don't know, because I don't think anybody knows. I think religion is conflict. Religion is like love. Religion is a set of rules, a set of dogmas, a set of moral compass that you have to conform to or to rebel or to do the same. So we are always in between. But I'm very curious about it. I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I know a lot about that upbringing. I was the kind of musician that doesn't burn the Bible, but reads and tries to understand it. And I think that translates into our lyrics and the music, that kind of conflict, because sometimes, you are in the verge of death and suddenly even Voltaire became religious, in a way. In Portugal, we say you have to have good terms with both God and the devil, because you never know who's in charge on that day. So it's religion is a big issue for me, much more than politics or music or football or literature. I think religion is something that we should discuss and that we should look in the face to, but not in a silly way of just saying, hail Satan and we're all going to be evil or God is dead, without understanding what it means. I think I have a lot of respect and I care a lot about being very respectful when I write about religion, because I don't own the truth. I don't know if God exists or not. Nobody does. But I know that people have faith, and I know that people sometimes feel good about having faith in a devil or in a God, and that fascinates me. Yeah.
Yeah. One German politician once said that he's atheist, but he wouldn't want to live in a world without religion, because things would be really worse because of people then didn't know where to go, what to do, and stuff.
Yeah, people need direction. That's why, according to Feuerbach, we invented God. Feuerbach was an atheist too, but he had formulated a theory that was called the hermeneutic atheism. So he picked up all the things from the church, all the dogmas, and he explained it through human terms. And I think that's very interesting, because there's nothing without human influence. AI, God, everything was created by us, and it's up to us what to do with it. And that's the challenge. Either it's like the Promethean fire. We use it for cooking, we use it for warming ourselves up, to advance, to make tools, to make weapons. but we also use the fire to destroy cities, to make war. And that's exactly what's happening with technology these days. But I think it's a very human dilemma. It's not something that doesn't belong to uh, our sphere. It's metaphysics somehow. But yeah, I think people need direction because we cannot survive alone, and we cannot survive without spirituality, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's totally interesting. We could talk about this for hours, probably, as you have studied philosophy. I am totally interested in it. Now the time is a little bit short, so maybe one other day we do this on a really, really
Yeah,
big
yeah, you
scale.
can you can you
Would
can
be
ask
cool.
Mona, definitely. I'm sorry about the time being short. I mean, I
Don't
don't book it. It's
Totally no
it's
problem.
just
It's just
yeah,
we want to promote a little bit about the album now. And
okay.
let's talk at least about one song because I think it's important for you and for the album as well. It's The Great Wolf at the Sky. I think it's important once because it has a story, maybe you can tell, and there's some guest musician on it. So maybe you can summarize what the importance about this is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be our third advance for the album, coming out a little bit before the album is done. It's going to be a video too, and it's a very particular song. It's one of the songs that I think it will endure the test of time for Moonspell because it has this epic wolf feeling, but it's totally different this way. We got a guest for strings, Alicia Morrow, and we wanted to create like a requiem with this song. So she was really helpful. I didn't know her before. She's a great artist, and she was really helpful as a special guest by playing all the strings on the song. Actually, she did a lot of stuff, and we had to shorten it because she was so enthusiastic about it. And when we arrived to Portugal, well, we've been in Portugal. When we arrived home, we find out that one of our best friends and fans of Moonspell, called Pedro Silva, he passed away in a very unexpected and even tragic way. And he was such a big fan of us that he got buried on a Moonspell shirt. And that kind of made me want to dedicate this song to him because he was one of us, because his own family that he leaves too soon called him their wolf too. They had all these private things. So we asked his family and we dedicated this song because music is about creating memories. And I think that this will be painful, but also good memory for his family and maybe for him, whatever he is. I think it makes sense. He's probably, right now, he became the great wolf in the sky.
Yeah. So I think this is really, really beautiful story because what else could be better for a fan than being somehow part of this song?
I
So
mean, I would give everything for him to be alive in even
I'm
this
sure.
song, but I mean, we should pay tribute to the people which matter to us, and Pedro meant a lot to us. Not only because he was a Moonspell fan, but he was from the same neighborhood as me. He was there in the beginning, and it's one of these kind of fans. He never complained about anything. He went to all the shows. He never asked me for anything, for a shirt, for a free CD. There's many people asking, but not him. And he was just an exemplary father, husband, hardworking, and Moonspell was one of his happy moments. So I think we really had to immortalize that with this song.
Yeah, totally. And I think we have to come to an end because a few
Oh,
minutes
I'm
to your
so
next
sorry.
to your next interview. No problem.
This
It's
time flies.
better like this than not knowing what to talk about.
All
But
right.
for sure, we need a good end. So maybe do you have some message, some greetings to the people outside before we quit?
Well, yes. First, I would like to thank you for the opportunity of talking. It's very, very important also that we get to promote our music. We in Germany, people can see us this year at Partisan. We already been in Wave Gothic Trafen. It was beautiful. I know it's very different festivals, but it's always enjoyable to play our new songs and old songs live. We'll be on tour in 2027 too. And for Germany, I only have to say Dankeschön because it's been more than 30 years supporting Moonspell. It's a very important, meaningful country to us. It's the country we mostly played in our lives, not in Portugal, not in the US, in Germany. And I hope that the German fans and your viewers will enjoy our new album that is coming out. It's far from God, but hopefully closer to you.
I'm sure they will. I did, so other people will enjoy it as well. So
All right, Frank, talk soon,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Let
great.
me jump in the
Thanks
other
for the
interview.
talk.
Thank you very much. It's
And
been my pleasure.
yeah,
Cheers.
we meet again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.